Welcome to Rockstar Doctor Life. I'm Melissa Longo, and each episode, my guests and I will bring you fresh, fun ways to rock your life as a health professional and create a business that aligns with who you are and the life you want to live. Hey there, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Rockstar Doctor Life. I am always excited to have great chats with great chiropractors, and usually even more excited when I've had a really great pre-chat with someone. And Dr. Skip Wyss is here today. Wyss, did I pronounce your name right? I'm so sorry. Nailed it. Okay, good. Thank you. Dr. Skip Wyss, I have gotten to know through his involvement in the inner circle that I'm one of the coaches with, but also because I've been listening to his new podcast for chiropractors, which I absolutely love. So without me telling you so much more about Dr. Skip, tell us about you and what do you have going on in your life these days? You know, your kids, your practice, everything else you're doing.
We got a lot going on. Practicing over here in Green Bay, Wisconsin, there's always stuff going on. I have, the practice is booming as usual. We see between 70 and 75% children in our office. So it's always busy. It's always fast paced. It's insane. I get basically, chiropractors will say that cliche that I get to play every day, but I kind of literally do because I'm surrounded by children. So you're forced to, because if you don't play, you're kind of a stick in the mud and they're never going to be comfortable with you. Right. Mm-hmm. So that's the practice. And then the other hat is honestly running an online coaching, online practice, an online program that is coaching doctors to be basically extraordinary in practice. And instead of constantly concentrating on nonstop new patients, it's basically how to grow your practice from within inside. And it starts with growing the doctor itself. I mean, that's the program that me and Christina Stitcher have developed. And then honestly running the Prime Pediatric Podcast, which has been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we're headed into our 15th episode here. That's 15, and the traffic's been amazing. The support has been fantastic. I can't say anything more amazing about it besides the fact that I was always really hesitant to get into the podcast world, Dr. Melissa. And then once I got into it, I really like it. I really like it's given me, it's something that we just got done talking about this, but it was an unexpected gem, which is it's giving me so much more clarity and confidence. And I had a ton before, but like now, because I'm talking chiropractic every week, like majorly clinically, because that's what our podcast is, very, 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 very doctor focused. Mm-hmm. I think it's the only one of its kind, to be honest with you, that actually gives you content that you can use every day in practice. Mm-hmm. It's just like reteaching stuff nonstop. So my head is just getting fuller and fuller. And some would say bigger and bigger. God, I hope not. But case in point, like last night, for just example, I sat as a panelist at a birth expo here in Green Bay. And there was like 85 moms. There was all a pre-booked event. It was actually really cool. And I sat as a panelist, and I'm up there with a financial planner, a banker, and a pediatric gastroenterologist. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening to this GI doctor speak. And within three minutes of him talking, I'm like, this guy does not believe in himself. He doesn't believe in what he does. He's here just to talk. He is not going to do anything for this room. So I knew that I have so much confidence in what chiropractic is and what we stand for, that it doesn't matter who I'm talking to on a professional regard. I can talk to anyone at any time because I have nonstop confidence and clarity in what we do. Like, I love what we do. I just absolutely love what we do. And we are so vital, especially in a family practice, to keeping the future generations healthy and alive, that we need to be absolutely the first choice at what we do. I mean, in healthcare, period. And that's what drives me. So like, yeah, the podcast is just something so greater and there's such a greater force involved right now than just trying to grow the practice, is grow the chiropractic profession as much as possible. So that's what I'm doing besides running probably the busiest pediatric office north of Chicago. And I would say the one in Chicago, we probably rival pretty heavily. Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. You're making me think of when I had a television show in my community a few years ago, and it was I didn't get paid for it. It was just something I did because it was fun. And don't get me wrong, it was a good for the practice in that I gained exposure and people started to, see again who I was. It was good marketing. But the best part about it was how engaged it kept me, because I was talking about things every week on the show, things that I was, sharing in my practice. And it was just an extension. And because it kept that fire lit up in me and it gave my certainty, I was teaching it constantly. It definitely helped me grow as a doctor too. So I appreciate what you just said. And docs listening, I mean, whether you have a podcast or you're just doing videos or you're just doing talks in your office, like doing these things and teaching is always what gives you more confidence, I think, as time goes on, and clarity too.
Stay in the work. Like that's like stay in the work. That's one of the biggest things is even running the podcast, Dr. Melissa, like even doctors that listen to the podcast because of how we cover it, like one of our podcast series is all on like infants and newborns. And because I was focused on that recording for literally a month of 4 episodes, it was nonstop newborns in our office at home. Now that I've switched and our focus right now is all toddlers, it's been nonstop toddlers coming in this month. And it's because it's your focus at the time and where you're putting your energy out there and putting that out in the universe, but you're doing it for the betterment of your community and the betterment of people around you, that God just floods your office. It is what happens. And so the docs that listen and like listen to your podcast and understand what it's like to be a doctor and have a family, and they become so family oriented because of all the good work you do. It's the same thing when they're listening to clinical podcasts, because they just get freaking better.
So let's just back up. Okay. So you have a really, really busy practice. It is you, and you work with your wife in the practice as well?
Yeah. I work with my wife, Dr. Julie, and she would say I work with my second husband, Dr. Devin Rising.
I was going to ask you if you had any associates.
Yeah, I do have an associate, and his name is Dr. Devin Rising. And that guy, I'm so happy that we have him in our office. He's an absolute blessing.
And how many years have you guys been in practice? Did you have any other practice opportunities before you opened your own space?
No, we and we've been in practice for almost 11 years. We opened up in August of 2008, and it's been a crazy road for the first year, just like anybody in practice. I think one of the biggest detriments that somebody can learn coming out of school is to immediately think that because they graduated school, they're going to be successful, and that they know how to run a business, because they don't.
Right.
And we never learn humility until we fall flat on our face. And whether that's in a relationship or working with our spouse or working in our office, like if people have heard the chiropractic philanthropist with Dr. Ed Osborne, my interview on there, I talk about how we were robbed 6 months into practice. Like when we got robbed, I wrote out a check for our lease payment, and we had $50 left in our bank account. And that night we got robbed, and somebody took $150 cash from our office, and that was the last money we had. And because of that, like I remember that day like it was yesterday. And when that happened, see, our practice wasn't failing, but the problem is that I wasn't working hard enough internally and externally to make myself the best. I wasn't confident. I wasn't clear. I had no certainty in what I was doing. I knew that what I had to do, like what I wanted to do, was see kids, but my certainty and my confidence and my clarity just was not there. And the office was struggling because of it. And even my coach that I was working with at the time, who I still coach with that company, I don't coach with him anymore because Dr. Ogi retired, but I coach with other people in the company now. The thing is that we just didn't have our head in the right space yet. And it took time to get there. And the office was growing, but very, very slow. And I think that when you're married and in practice and you're working together, like I work side by side with my wife. Actually, it's one of the most amazing experiences I get to have every day is because we have an open bay adjusting in our office. We have a huge open bay with 3 adult tables and 3 pediatric tables, and they're all lined up kind of in a row and interscattered. And I look up, and the other day this happened again. It happens almost every day, and it feels so amazing. I look up, and my wife, Dr. Julie's working on a pregnant patient. I look up again, Dr. Devin's working on a pregnant patient, and I look in front of me and I have a pregnant patient. And literally there's 3 pregnancies. So honestly, think about that. There's 6 lives being impacted by 3 doctors. And to look up and to see it, and our office is set up, it's a beautiful place. It's got tons of windows and tons of natural light. And I look up and it's like my wife's hair is glowing and like Devin's smiling at this mom. And I'm like, man, this is like the best place ever. It wasn't always like that. Like, that's the thing, is like for the first year, it was a hard push. And then after we got robbed, that the actual lease, the actual insurance settlement that we got because our office got damage in it, I actually used to pay our lease payment the next month. And if I hadn't had that, we probably either I would have borrowed money from my parents or I don't know where I would be. And from that day forward, I knew that I wasn't ever going to let that happen again. And with men, and this is from men in general, so guys, when you're listening, it seems like fellas, and especially as male chiropractors, we need to be like on the edge of the cliff, falling off, and somebody pushing us from our back before we're willing to make a change. And I don't know why that is.
It's a good thing for all the ladies listening too, for all their men in their lives.
Just push him off the cliff. Just push him off the cliff, because he'll eventually figure it out. Either he's going to fall flat on his face and figure it out when he hits the ground, or he's going to figure it out before he hits the ground and he's still going to fall on his face. Either way, be there to pick him up and be his support, because that's the one thing I can't thank my wife enough for. Yeah.
So when you had that point in time where, you know, things were not easy your first year of practice, what was it that helped you and Julie get solid and get grounded? Was it coaching? Was it something, a pivotal moment emotionally for you? Was it a book? Like, was it a resource? Like, what was the shift that caused you then to go from, this is difficult, are we going to make this work, we just got robbed, to we're going to rock this?
My coach told me that I needed to fix myself before I could fix my practice. So I did. And Julie was right there alongside of me. Julie fixed herself. My wife is not flawless. I think if
none of us are.
No, I think if anybody in a relationship were to tell you their spouse is flawless, they're absolutely blowing smoke up your rear end. We all have our flaws. It's just understanding how to deal with each other's flaws and then work with those flaws to your advantage and help that person turn that flaw into a major plus. One of the biggest things about my wife that I cannot say enough is how organized she is and how she keeps me on task. She's my support. When she looks at me and says, you have this, I know I have it. You know, I know when she tells me that I've got something, I've got something. And the other thing is with her is that my wife is Dr. Julie is absolutely relentless. Like, not mean wise, but relentless. Like, she will push and push and push. If somebody tells her that she can't do something, it's going to happen, whether it's going to turn out or not, she's still going to do it. I remember one of the balance things we had in our practice was a few years ago. This is when we were looking at hiring an associate, because we were starting to see well into the triple digits of patients a day and like triple digits of kids plus adults. Like, this is like, our office is very busy, and I'm not going to talk numbers, but we're busy. Okay. And it's kind of like when Jeff Hedges said, you know, like, real money, we're busy. And I remember sitting there with her and I was talking with her and we had just gotten back from the mountain experience with CLA, and we had just gotten back with working with Steve Hoffman. And Steve Hoffman is an absolute delight. I love Dr. Steve. And he broke a few things down to my wife, and everybody has those emotional moments with Steve because he knows how to pull everything out of you and basically psychologically destroy you, which is good. Like, he does it to everyone. He's amazing at it. Like, Steve's amazing at that. But we're on the flight home, and I said, Julie, the office is at a point where we're growing so fast. I need to know what you want to do, because I'm here for you. I'm your husband. I said, I love you. We own this office together. The last thing I want to become is business partners, because I married you first before we even open the office. You are who I want to be around. So tell me what you want. And I said, do you want to be in practice full time? Because I either need you in practice full time alongside of me, or I need to hire an associate. And Julie was really honest with me, and she goes, Skip, I want to spend time with our kids. And I said, okay, it's fine. Then let's do it. I said, so are we going to hire an associate or what? I said, what is ideal for you? And she was so stinking honest with me. And gentlemen, if you're listening with your wives and you work with your wives, have this conversation and find out what makes you happy together. Because if one of you do not like what you're doing, it ain't going to work. It's just not going to work out. Eventually it will blow up in your face. Case in point, I've had it happen a couple times in my life with my wife. Like, we need to have open conversations all the time. And she basically said, Skip, here's what I want. And I said, okay, tell me what you want. She goes, I don't want to do any exams. I said, all right. I don't want to do any x-rays. I don't want to take care of any new patients. I said, so what do you want to do? She goes, all I want to do is adjust. I want to come in, adjust, take care of patients, and walk out whenever I want. And I said, fine. That's literally, I was like, fine. Now I know exactly what you want. So what that did for me was, not being honest with your spouse is actually a giant disservice to yourself and a major disservice to your spouse. Just rolling over for them is not okay, because it's a major disservice to both of you. Because one, your needs aren't met as a wife, and my needs are not met as a husband, because I have no idea what the hell I need to do to help you. Because most husbands just want their wives happy. Like, that's really it. Like, I just want my wife to know I just need to know what she wants, so I can make sure that I can make myself happy and keep her happy. Like, that's exactly what I want, because her happiness is very important to me. She's my best friend. I don't want my best friend mad. Okay. I just don't, unless it's a guy and we get over that shit, like, within a day. That's all we
Us women, we need a lot more nurturing, us women.
But it really helped me out that day when she said that, because then I knew exactly where Julie was at in practice. So I knew then that it was really wrong of me to sit there and rely on her for something she didn't want to do. And she didn't, so it was really wrong of me and wrong of her actually too, to keep telling me, yeah, it's okay that I do this, when really she didn't want to do it, for one. And two, to know then that I couldn't rely on her to be on my back when I'm underwater with patients or I'm behind. So that was a growth period for me. I knew that I had to scale back practice slightly, hire an associate, move things around, handle my hours. And then all of a sudden the office exploded again. Like freaking the wheels fell off the cart. We increased by 45% in 1 month, which is a lot. So like, that's what happens. And it's fine. It's when doctors get radical clarity with their spouses that it seems like everything really opens up, because we're finally clear on who wants what out of each part of our relationship. So doctors do ask me though all the time, they're like, how do you work with your wife? And I said, it's actually really simple. Like, I know exactly what she wants and she knows exactly what I want. And she knows that when I'm in practice, all that I'm concerned about is the patient. I am not concerned about what bill needs to be paid. I am not concerned about this and that. My team knows exactly how I operate. I work with one of the most amazing team members. Rosemary's been with us for 4 years, and like, she knows me just as well as Julie does. So they know my focus is the patient at all times, because that's how we get them better. So, right?
Communication, obviously, with your partner at any stage, personal life and professional life is key. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like? So we haven't talked about your kids yet, but you have 2 kids, and you've been in practice longer than you've had children.
Well, kind of. No, they match up, Dr.
Okay.
No. Okay. They match up. So Peyton, so just so you know, Dr. Julie was taking Part 4 boards and having contractions.
Oh, wow. Okay. I can relate.
Married in July.
Yeah. Okay.
Pregnant in August, because we know how that happens. And then Julie ends up getting pregnant. Totally her fault. And then, guy has nothing to do with it, right? So Julie ends up getting pregnant. And then, I mean that with all love. And she ends up having Peyton. So I graduate. So timeline, we get married in July, pregnant in August. I graduate in February from Palmer. Julie has 4 months left. So I continue a small associateship with my preceptor doctor in Davenport. During that time, she's finishing up her last trimester of school. Part 4 boards roll around. Julie's 39 weeks pregnant. She takes the boards while having contractions. We have Peyton 10 days later. after Peyton's born, we moved back to Green Bay 6 days after that. So, and then we go back down to Palmer 1 week later, and Julie graduates from school. So
and then you open your practice right after that.
Open our practice 2 months later in Green Bay in August. Yeah.
So you don't know any other practice life than running a practice while trying to be parents?
Nope, none. Nope. I actually don't know what a marriage is like without a kid in it.
Right. You're going to figure that out maybe in about 20 years, right? When your kids are
We joke about that all the time. We're like, so do we get to go back to being newlyweds like when our kids are in their 20s? And I said, well, that sounds amazing. Let's just do that. That sounds fantastic. So that's one of the things that we joke about, what we really do understand with each other. And understanding how to have a family practice and then raise a family in a family practice.
So what is your tips around that? How have you guys made that work?
My kids are at the office nonstop. Like,
okay.
Like that's what they do. Like when we had Peyton, everybody, see, the thing is original patients that we still see from 11 years ago. And there's a lot of them, like people just stay with us because we love taking care of them and we get really badass results and they just stay. And the thing is though, is like when we tried to remove Peyton from our practice and like get a babysitter and have her in daycare, our patients were not happy. They're like, where's
the baby?
Yeah. Where's Brecken? Where's your son? Because they're used to seeing that. They were used to seeing my daughter asleep in a bassinet behind the front counter. While Julie's up front scheduling a patient and I'm in back adjusting or vice versa. See, and I think that one of the things that chiropractors have to take advantage of, which some don't do, and I wish they would, is raise their kids in their office.
Well, some people just don't know what that would look like from a really practical standpoint. So it was like,
it's not as chaotic as what it sounds. It's really not, because it's different. Okay, let's draw the line here. Do I have, now that they're 8 and 10, are they in my office every day? Yeah, but they're there in our office for about an hour and they're gone. Like, one, I don't want them around because they drive me nuts. Because they come up to me and they'll be like, "Hey, Dad," and I'll be like right in the middle of taking care of patients. Or like I'll be like getting ready to analyze. Like literally, I got somebody face down, ready to check for subluxation, and Brecken comes up and he's like, "Hey, Dad, can I have this as a snack?" I'm like, "Brecken, come on, man!" And he knows to come to Dad because Dad takes the snack, opens it, gives it back to him, and goes right back to the work, because I am not going to even deal with that argument when I have somebody that I need to take care of. So, but understanding that dynamic of having your kids there, I think is really important, because it shows your patients that you are family oriented, that the real shit that happens in life happens in your office right in front of you every day. And patients see that. And they laugh at it. That's what I find disgusting. So I'm like, you're laughing because my son's like obliterating me right now. And they're like, yeah, because my kid just did it 2 hours ago. And so what happens then is your patients grow up with you in your practice. And then when you get in newer patients, the younger ones that come in, you understand the trials and strifes that they're going through. But you also get it from a perspective, from a parent's perspective, of if they have to have their kids in daycare and they have to go to work, which I clearly get, you get the struggle that they're feeling, that pull, that they want to be with their kids, but they have to go to their job. And as being self-employed chiropractors, we kind of have the other side of that, where if we so choose, they can be with us every day. You know? Yeah,
I mean, I'm recording this today and my youngest son is home because he was not feeling great this morning. And he's like, "Can I stay?" I'm like, "Yeah, you're probably better just resting." And he's like, "Can you adjust me?" I'm like, "Of course." But they throw my game off because they don't know what happens for 6 hours when they're typically at school. So I'm like, "Dude, I got to do a podcast interview right now. Like, be quiet." But it is a good luxury to have as a parent, right?
It is. It's an amazing luxury to have. I find that some chiros choose to, and that's okay if they so choose, to really grow their practice without their kids in it. Because some choose to do that too, and they want that full separation, which I fully get, but because that's their life.
Right.
But honestly, in my mind, in my heart, if I had to do it all over again, I would have my daughter in my practice from day one.
Right. So you wouldn't change anything, basically.
Well, the thing that's funny is they walk around like they own the place. So, I mean, they're behind.
Maybe one day they will.
Well, I hope so, but that's their decision, right? But it's funny because my front desk team, they're like 5 foot and 4'10", And Peyton's 5'2" at 10 years old. So she walks up front and she's got these two wonderfully awesome women that are like seasoned women. Okay. Like they've had kids, they've got kids in college. And then I've had this 10-year-old who's 2 inches taller than him behind him at the front desk doing stuff. And I told them flat out 2 years, in 2 years, I said, hey, we had a staff meeting. We had a team meeting 2 months ago, like an actual quarterly. And I said, hey, Peyton will be working here in 2 years, just so you guys know. And they both looked at me and said, okay, that's great because she could probably run it on her own now. And I said, yeah, probably, but she will be here in 2 years because it's her life. It's what she knows. And the best thing about that, because the thing that's cool is because they're in the work every day, Melissa, like they get chiropractic better than probably most chiros that I have a chance to talk to right away. Because it's fun when you talk to your kids and then they see something happen at school or they ask questions like if we start talking vaccinations or we talk natural immunity or we start talking nutrition. And Peyton will look at me and she goes, I don't know why you would do that, Daddy. That makes no sense. Like not towards me, but like in public. Like she'd be like, I don't know why they would even do that, Dad. That's so bad for them. And I said, I know, honey, I understand. But remember, we think along the lines of whatever we do is to affect our body and keep it healthy versus just making a decision because everybody else wants us to make that decision. And that, I love that. I love it. I love it.
It sounds like you've had some tremendous influences in your chiropractic career. So from coaches, from mentors, I'm sure you and Julie inspire each other at different times. What do you think have been some of your greatest influences as a chiropractor?
You mean, Dr. Melissa, do you mean like coach wise or how would you like me to answer that?
Well, I just like, if you were to like the chiropractor that you are, the chiropractor rather that you are today, heavily focused on pediatrics, running a really great pediatric family practice. Is there a resource or a person or an event that you attended that you feel has been really pivotal in shaping you, or is it ongoing? I mean, we talked a lot about evolving with our businesses in our pre-chat, right? And how life is always throwing you different things and different opportunities to grow. But if you were to look at some of the greatest influences on who you are today, where would you say they came from?
One started in school.
Okay.
Like my staff doctor in school, I went to Palmer College. And at that time when I was there were some very, very influential, amazing doctors. Some are still there, some are not. But they had a huge impact on me and my thought process. The other one was my staff doctor that basically pulled me aside and said, I have no choice in learning how to take care of kids because my daughter's going to be here in 2 months. And I said, okay. So she loaded me with all the patients she possibly could. Her name was Dr. Manissa Brown. And I hope she's listening. She was a massive impact on me, massive. And that was like my first exposure to an actual mom breastfeeding her child while she was still working. Like Dr. Manissa just had her baby. So like she's pumping and I'm adjusting and like it was such a cool experience, but it was an understanding of that woman dynamic in an office, especially a female chiropractor and a mom at the same time. Right. So that helped me. Number two was my wife. She's probably one of the most influential people I have in my life and still will. Like she is the most important thing to me. But the other part was meeting my first coach, Dr. Ogie Russell out of Canada. And Ogie is an amazing man. Some people like him. Some people don't. I don't really care what people's opinions are of him. It's what his impact on me was. And that's, he helped mold me into who I am. And knowing that has made a huge impact. The next thing was definitely then as I grew, understanding the importance of furthering my craft and understanding the importance of being really, really amazing at taking care of kids, because there's enough mediocrity in the world that I was sick of being mediocre. I've always felt that if I really wanted to truly make an impact on my world and truly make an impact on the profession, I needed to be the big kid on the block showing everybody else how to do it. And I'm so used to having people show me, it's time for me now to step up and show everyone else. So that's what drives me now. And honestly, understanding that, taking the courses I've taken, learning from guys like John Minardi, Marty Rosen, Drew Rubin, Michael Hall, some of the very, very important instructors in the ICPA have been massively impactful on my life. John Minardi is really impactful on me, incredibly impactful. And then, I just love John. I just think what he does and how he pushes and how he makes that man is, if you want somebody to be relentless, that man is freaking relentless.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so happy he is a chiropractor and works for us and works with us and changes lives. But those guys, and then myself, and then Dr. Christina Stitcher, who's like, literally, I can't believe I didn't think of Christina, and she deserves it. Like, Christina is a huge impact on me as well. And just because we have very, very similar offices, and now we're pretty much business partners in running the Prime Pediatric Program together and co-creating all that, right? But she's a massive influence. And there's other docs along the way, Dan Bronstein, Stanton Hom, like all those guys have been incredible impacts on me. Every time I meet a chiro, and every time I do, it's either I'm going to learn something from you or you're going to learn something from me. Mm-hmm. That's how I view it, because like you said, and it's true, we are all so much alike than we are different. Mm-hmm. And you just want to change the world, right? Mm-hmm. So all of that, and having a coach that could actually say, listen, you need to like change yourself first. And I changed myself, and I had to increase myself. And that's one of the things, is getting certainty, confidence, and clarity to bring yourself together is key. And knowing exactly what you're supposed to do and how to take care of these kids and how to efficiently and effectively take care of them. So we know that when a parent's asking a question, we can confidently ask it because we know the answer and the result. Mm-hmm. That is key to me. That's what drives us in our program too. I mean, that's what drives us.
That's a really great list. And I think that clearly you've been really blessed by having some amazing people around you and some great leadership. How would you, actually, before we go there, I'd love to talk a little bit about how you and Dr. Christina Stitcher started working together in the pediatric program. You know, why was that something that you wanted to, I mean, you're busy enough. You just already talked about, you guys have a busy practice, 2 children. How is it that you decided to expand your influence and add more responsibility to your plate with creating a program of pediatrics and a podcast?
I wanted to have a greater impact on the chiropractic community as a whole, because I had already had a massive impact on our community and our state chiropractically with restoring health. But I wanted to have a larger impact on the world. And the only way to do that is to teach and to be able to help as many people as I can possibly in my lifetime, because that literally is my mission statement, our mission statement that sits on our wall in our office. Mm-hmm. So how am I possibly supposed to help as many people as I can if I do not teach? Mm-hmm. And if you have something good to offer and you hold it back, you are actually doing a major detriment to everyone around you. And I met Christina through our coach, Ogie. Ogie was our coach, mine and hers both. And when Ogie retired, he asked Christina to take over the program, and she did. And I was the first person she called to help her teach in the program. And we were somewhat close at that point, not really, but then as we started to really delve into working together, teaching together, masterminding together, we've really developed a very, very, very strong and close friendship. Mm-hmm. And then what happened is we saw this gap. So we saw this massive gap between practice management companies that teach you how to do clinical procedures like run your office and route patients and schedule and all the stuff that practice management companies do. And some teach you personal growth, things like that. Like, I get that. That's her company. Like Practice Evolution, that's what they do. And it's an amazing program. If I were to hire another coach, I would immediately probably go back to Practice Evolution and learn everything I've learned up to this point. Because of that program, our office is what it is because of how we run our systems and how we do things on day ones. Like it, and anybody who has any sort of conviction towards the company that's helped them get to that point should say what they've done. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like that's it. So what happened though is we saw this massive gap from practice management to clinical excellence. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of doctors that want very, very busy offices. But the problem, the issue is that a lot of them will come to me and say, I'm just not confident taking care of kids. I want to see kids, but I'm just not fully confident. Mm-hmm. And if you took certain parts of my management away, I would not know what to do. And that's where this program, the Prime Pediatric Program, fills a very, very crucial gap in getting everyone on board with taking care of kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we did together. And that's what we wrote together. And it's allowed us then to, one, bring our doctors in practice evolution completely up to speed, because we can put them through a modular based program first before they actually start coaching heavily with Christina and then learning even more clinical work. We teach so much clinical work in the practice evolution program, it'll make your mind spin. Like, it gets so heavy. We should just take continuing ed for everybody and give them like 40 credits when we get together, because it's so much stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But our job is to take the 1% and make them the elite 1%. That's what we do in that program. So what Prime does is get them to that level, so then we can increase them even higher and teach them clinical excellence with kids, and give them exams and give them x-rays and how to properly take x-rays on kids and how to properly adjust kids, and give them technique and give them the things that practice management companies seem like they don't even want to touch with a 10-foot pole.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they don't want to talk care plans.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or they'll give you a cookie cutter care plan that's supposed to fit everybody because of a certain way a certain picture looks. Everybody falls within that care plan, and that's not the way patient care works. We know this. Like, this is not, the body's dynamic and it's constantly healing and it's always changing. So why the hell would everybody have the same care plan?
Mm-hmm.
It makes no sense to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So understanding that, but then taking what we know clinically and turning it into getting amazing results with our patients. That was what's key. And I know wholeheartedly that that's what separates our office from most offices, is because of how we go about taking care of kids and how we go about setting a course to get their body to start reestablishing proper habit and start reestablishing proper communication. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like to ask I mean, one thing I've observed with you is the heart that you have for the work that you're doing, right? And a lot of times people, when we start talking about online business, and people think that some docs want to replace their clinical practice, their brick and mortar practice, with a virtual practice. And it's actually my experience in working with so many of you has been the exact opposite. It's actually, these are docs who have so much to give and so much fire and, you know, and love for what we do in healthcare, that they want to expand. They want to push forward and actually grow. And it's not that they want to have one or the other. They're actually willing to take on more responsibility, more work, if you even want to call it work, because it's usually very fulfilling, but they want to take on more because they want to give more. And that's something that I just really think that listeners should take to heart. Like, if you have a desire to expand your influence outside your office, then there's plenty of places to find support to do that. But it's oftentimes that, you know, it helps you grow as a person when you are giving.
It really does. And it's one of those things that I find a lot of docs kind of hit right around the 5-year mark.
Yeah.
Like, when their office is 5 years, they're really comfortable, their office is doing good, and all of a sudden they get this greater purpose that hits them in the back of their head like a shovel. Every one of them will. Some choose to take that and run with it. Others choose to ignore it and just say, I'm happy where I'm at. And that's okay. It's what they want, right? It's where they're at in their time of life. But some, and that's what happened to me. It was literally 4 years into practice. And I'm like, there's so much more. Like, there's so much more that I can be doing right now besides, and I don't mean to minimize this, besides just take care of patients in our practice. And I mean that wholeheartedly. I don't mean just, I mean, there's more to do than what I'm already serving already. There's a greater purpose. Well,
there's a ripple effect, right? Like, you influencing other chiropractors is affecting more lives than just what you would be seeing with the people you're adjusting in your practice.
For sure. And then it's having that effect and knowing that, dang it, I'm in this for the long haul, and the world that I'm trying to create and help right now is the world that my kids are going to be growing up in. I don't want it the way it is anymore.
No. Is that what you wake up in the morning and it fuels you for your day? Like, that kind of personal mission?
Yeah. It does. And I'm the other personal mission that drives me really hard is, I don't like the fact that other healthcare entities come at us and say that we're not safe. That what we're doing is not okay. I find I was sitting in John Minardi's lecture years ago, and he said, what drove him to become who he is was that guy on freaking Quack Watch. that stood up and basically called us idiots. And John was like, I'm not having any more of this. And that's what made him relentless in his pursuit of what he's doing. If I'm correct, and if I'm wrong, John, you can call me out on it, but I specifically remember you saying that. And to me, what's driving me even harder now is the fact that people are trying to take away our rights as chiropractors to take care of kids. And the reason why that's happening is because as a chiropractic profession, we unfortunately try to stand up, but when we try to stand up, the minute we stand up, we want to sit back down. Instead of just stand up and show them that what we do works, and that where that comes from is the confidence in what we do clinically.
Right.
We've seen the changes. We've seen the kids impacted. We've seen autistic kids go from nonverbal to verbal. We've seen kids that can't communicate to be able to communicate. We see kids that can't see. We've literally seen, to quote people from like Reggie Golden, like we've seen blind men literally get their sight restored.
Right.
We've seen this stuff happen, but we can't explain it. So instead of standing up, because we can't explain it, we feel like we don't have a right to push ourselves forward. We feel like we'll be like, okay, well, we'll just wait for the research to catch up. Research ain't going to catch up. Not because they don't do the research studies that need to be done. So what drives me is getting the doctor to the level of being, you know what, when they sit next to the GI doctor, it's like to quote Jeff Hedges, no, you're behind me. Okay. I'm here and I'm going to own this space and I'm going to talk what I'm going to talk and I'm going to work in this space. And if you want to talk in your space, that's fine. But don't think that you can try to challenge me, because I will sit with you every day and challenge back, because I will stand on my foundation and I am not going anywhere. And that's what I want every one of us like. Because I feel that if we're at that point and unwavering and unshakable, and we know that the stuff we do in our practice, when it comes to really like the clinical knowledge, and to see that, and when somebody comes to me and says, why are you doing this on that patient? Or I got a pediatrician that says, I don't think that they need these issues going on. I don't think they need cranial work. Oh, really? Did you measure it? Did you seriously check it from side to side? Did you check these fontanelles? Because this is where I'm seeing the overlaps. Oh, this bump right here shouldn't be there.
Right.
Like, okay, well, now you're starting to make sense. Now you're starting to point stuff out. I'm not trying to shut systems off. I'm turning systems on. So the systems that aren't working, they turn on, and the ones that are working too much actually naturally slow themselves down and regulate and create homeostasis. They create perfection. So I can sit there and look at all of that and show them these neurological reflexes aren't working. These are. Now they work. Here's what we did. Here's how the body restored balance, and now we're back online. Here's where they integrated. To have that confidence, and it's not because I've sat in 40,000 hours of classes. I've sat in a lot of classes.
Right.
Once I started seeing a ton of stuff change in the practice, and then seeing how confident I was becoming and teaching and working and moving this forward, every doctor should have that they should have that pride in themselves to say, damn it, I am a chiropractor. And I had a guy last night look at me and say, but you're not really a real doctor. And Devin, my associate, he looks at me and just starts laughing. And I said, well, what do you mean by real doctor? He's like, well, you're not a medical doctor. I said, no, actually, I am not a medical doctor at all.
I feel like that would be the wrong thing to say to Dr. Skip.
I didn't wig out on him. Because I knew right away that he was a dad that had no idea what we do. And that is an insult, not towards him, but towards us, that we haven't done our job. That the general public still does not perceive us as a care provider for a child that's the first choice and not third choice. And like it is, you are behind me. I'm here. Come stand with me. Stand on my shoulders. Stand with me. So we can create this environment to push forward and push like this. We need to push and push back. so sick of hearing crap that we're not safe, that HVLA adjustments, and like I can't touch a 2-year-old if I'm in Australia, when damn it, from 0 to 2 is the most impactful point in a child's life, and why are we not taking care of every one of them?
Mm-hmm. How does, I would love to keep chatting with you. And listeners, you definitely need to check out the podcast, because what I love about it is having a family practice and seeing a lot of kids too. A podcast, I mean, obviously I love podcasts, but I can listen to it in the car, and in, 20 minutes, I can get a refresher on some clinical pieces or learn something new that I can actively apply the next day I'm in practice. And sometimes I feel like I need to go back to the podcast and like listen to them again with my notepad, because there's a lot of information that you guys cover, and they're really, really well done. And I find you easy to listen to. So I appreciate the work that you're doing. And for me as a doctor, to help my own certainty. So listeners, be sure to check it out if you are a family practice, or if you're not sure about seeing kids and you want to get started in learning why kids should see a chiropractor, wherever you fit on the chiropractic spectrum, with whether you want to work in a rehab office or you want to work in a vitalistic, chiropractic wellness office, focus on neurology. Kids need chiropractic, whatever for many different reasons. So it's a great place for you to start. But before we wrap up here, I would love to just ask you one last question. And that would be, how does Dr. Skip, you right now today, how do you define success for yourself? What's a successful life to you?
What I'm currently living right now.
Okay.
Having global impact is key to me, but success to me right now is, it's not material. It's not money. It's the ability to be me and feel like I don't have to be somebody else. And that has given me such clarity in what I do, because I can just be me. And those who want to be with me are with me, and those who don't, that's okay, because there's other people around. Mm-hmm. But since I've been that way, and since that feeling, that's success to me. Does money come with that? Yes, it comes with that. Okay. Mm-hmm. Is my lifestyle awesome? Yeah, I love my lifestyle, but I've modeled my lifestyle to the success I have. My goals are much different than other people. Some people, they want a Lamborghini. Cool. Some people want a Mercedes. Some are okay driving around a Honda. It's whatever they define themselves, but does it allow you to be you? That's the key. This allows me to be me. And I'm finally comfortable with that.
Well said. Well said. That's a great way for us to wrap the show. I mean, to me, that encapsulates the whole Rockstar Doctor life, our mission. It's really celebrating our differences, but also understanding that. And you can create your own Rockstar Doctor life. And Dr. Skip's definition of rocking it in your life and practice is maybe going to be different than Melissa's or Julie's or, Jason's or Susie's or whoever's. And that is absolutely okay. I think what you said earlier too, was along the lines of, not being okay with who you are, and defining your own success by what someone else wants. I mean, to me, that's a really, really easy recipe for disaster and a lack of joy in your life. So getting clear on that and what you want and who you are, and living life with that kind of clarity gives you such freedom. Yeah, it does. And it's such an amazing feeling to get to that place, because I remember one time a doctor told me I was successful, and I literally had to look at my wife and say, are we successful? Because I wasn't able to be myself. And this was years ago. We were like 4 years into practice, because we were describing what our practice was like. And the guy's like, oh my God, you're so successful. And I looked over at Julie. I'm like, are we? Because I don't feel like it. Like, I'm still grinding. I'm still pushing. And the problem is that I wasn't myself. And now I work harder than I ever have. I work harder than I used to. Like, I've 3 businesses and a podcast and kids and wife and charity. Like, we run a charity that nobody knows about, massive chiropractic charity called the Spine Project. And I'm not doing this to plug this, but seriously, people don't understand the work that goes into that 501c3 that allows us to see military vets at no cost. Like, that's another thing that Julie and I do. And my goal is to get that thing like nationwide within the next 5 years. So every chiropractor has access to it, so they can start taking care of all of our service vets. And you're in Canada. Why the hell can't it be international?
But then again, you guys don't really get involved in any wars. So you're a very smart country. You're a very, very smart country. You're a very smart country. But it's just a joke. But what I mean by that is to help our servicemen and women. But I'm busier now than I ever have been before, yet I've never felt more at peace in my life. I finally know who I am.
Well, you're saying all of that with a smile, right? And I can hear it in your listeners. You should be hearing that. And, we certainly talk about that. Hustling with heart is something I'm near and dear to my heart. It's like, if you're hustling for what matters to you and living a life that has meaning and purpose and allows you to be healthy and do, you have time with your family, take care of your health, then that's a good life. It doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like, I rarely feel stressed in my day-to-day life because I'm doing a lot of things that fill me and make me happy and bring me joy. And whether I'm in the practice or I'm working with doctors or, working online, it's all good.
2 of our team members have taken pay cuts, not because I refused to pay them money. Okay. But they were in very, very successful jobs before they came and worked for our office. And they took a pay cut because they wanted, one, better work-life balance, but the other one, both of them on their applications was, I just want a job that means something. I just want to know that I am making an impact, and I want to work here because of the work you do. And I want to know that I'm making my mark. And both of those ladies are our team and one of my doctors as well. Like, they want to make an impact. They want their life to have purpose. And that's the best thing about being chiropractors, man.
Yeah. And, docs listening, you have an opportunity to you mean something. The work that you're doing every single day in your office has meaning to it, and it changes lives. And if you're not feeling that, then I encourage you to find some clarity, to do what it takes for you to build your confidence, to find the right people around you, to find it within yourself, to get to that place of gratitude and happiness so that you can show up, your best every day in your practice. Because if you need someone to remind you the power of what you do every day to change lives, and even to the lives with your own family by being present as you are as a parent, it's a powerful thing. So thank you for being here with me, Skip. I always enjoy chatting with you. I know our listeners will find a ton of value, and certainly we'll drop all the links to the podcast and how you can connect with Skip. And I'll even throw in a few other links that came up here as well. So for all those links, guys, go to the Rockstar Doctor Life website and you'll find them there. Any final thoughts, Skip, before we sign off?
Yeah. The last thought is, I always think that this is a quote that I live by, and I've been like this for a long time. And like, the secret of genius is to carry the spirit of a child into your entire life and never to lose enthusiasm for what you do. And for those docs out there that are listening and are feeling kind of burnt out and they're sick of the approach of what they're in, you cannot expect different results from doing the exact same thing. Just see one kid, and make an impact. And everything that you felt in practice at one point, that fire, that burning, it'll come back really quick.
And they're just so darn cute and fun. I couldn't imagine not seeing kids in my practice. I had a 1-week-old here yesterday and a 5-month-old, and you're just holding them with your little, like, they're just like nothing, like a 4 on my forearm. And awesome. I couldn't imagine it myself anyway, any other way. So thanks again for your time, and I hope you have a fabulous rest of the day.
You too.
I hope you enjoyed today's show. Find out more about today's guests and everything else that we talked about in the show notes. You can also find all this content and so much more, including videos, blog posts, and how you can work with me on the Rockstar Doctor Life website. If you haven't yet reviewed the show, we'd love it if you headed on over to iTunes, subscribe, and leave us a review about what your thoughts are about future episodes for the show and what you like best. Feel free to connect with me on Instagram at Melissa Longo DC, and of course on Facebook. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.